So I have a lot of thoughts on Death Stranding, and I haven't even played the game. I don't own a PlayStation 4, and I cannot talk any of my friends who own one into letting me just steal theirs for a few days. Besides that, I don't know if I would have the time necessary to dump into this game right now, but I really wish I did. Death Stranding seems to be a game that fits my niche pretty perfectly. I am not all that bothered by repetitive tasks in video games, as many are. The idea of a fetch quest has never really gotten on my nerves, which could be argued that's what Death Stranding is. Of course, the joke has circulated constantly since its release that it is the walking simulator for 2019. And these games have existed before. I remember joking about DayZ being a walking simulator. There's been many games in the past where it seems that there's just nothing to do. I think, and I don't want to sound sort of pretentious, I don't want to sound like I'm asserting artistic merit where there is none. Take it for what you will. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. Maybe I have no place even saying this because I have not played the game. But it seems to me that the reason why people feel this way is because it was engineered this way, it was created this way. He wanted players, he being Hideo Kojima and the team working on Death Stranding, wanted the game to feel boring. They wanted it to feel frustrating. And it's funny because some of the reviewers that I've watched talk about it, they talk about how great it is that a game was able to be made with a singular view, that it was able to be, anything in this day and age was able to be made without a committee signing off on the sort of ideas, themes, gameplay loops, etc. But completely dismissing the game itself because it just wasn't fun for them. And I'm thinking that, and this sounds really weird, I think it wasn't supposed to be fun. At least not for the first little while. It's supposed to be a slog. It's supposed to be frustrating and slow and monotonous, and you have to struggle through that to get to something else. And what I ended up thinking about is some of my own situations in life that were rewarding and memorable, and how many of those were quote-unquote fun only. Of course, I have times that I can remember that were fun. I can remember doing things, just for fun, and that's great. But they're not the things that come up immediately when I think about things that were rewarding and memorable and long-lasting feelings of importance in my life. Most of those situations were difficult, sometimes boring, sometimes frustrating. And it makes me think about gaming on the whole and whether or not a game needs to be fun to be good. Which is sort of a funny question. The sort of definition of game, it's wrapped up in there somewhere, is the idea of fun. You play a game to have fun. And I was talking even to my wife about this, and she exclaimed that she would only play a game if it was fun. That she only played games if they were fun, and if it wasn't fun, it would be turned off and wouldn't be played anymore. But I think I have had many games where I've not been having fun every moment, but it feels rewarding when you achieve something in it. Even more competitive games, if we think about sport, or if we think about even more competitive video games, like thinking back to playing StarCraft 2, or thinking about playing maybe Counter-Strike in a more competitive way, or playing something like Magic the Gathering, or other TCGs. They're not always fun. I wouldn't say that waking up really early to, get a carpool, drive, the major city over, get signed up, go through all the process, sit down and start, playing your matches, talking about Magic now, was always fun, but it was exciting. It felt like there was a chance of greatness. You could do something awesome today. And, even in your matches, sometimes it's not fun. You're doing your absolute best to play well, make the best decisions you can, place well, going forward. Okay, well, I'm 3-1. Do I want to stick around, try to get my fourth win? If I get, if I'm 5-1, I'll probably move on. Like, that's not necessarily fun every moment, but it's rewarding. But anything, you could think to just about anything, having to struggle through something. So what does this mean? Coming back to the point of this whole thing, Death Stranding, I think Hideo Kojima had a point that he wanted to make. He wanted to talk about sort of, or have you experience his idea, which is this, is the strand, right? Death Stranding. The idea of needing to make connections with people, which I think is a really powerful thought right now in 2019. We are being inundated with social networks and the need to connect online. I think his point is that that's not a real connection and that we need to connect with people, which is even kind of strange when you think about the game itself. The game's not perfect. It's obviously a little heavy-handed in the way that it sort of portrays its main themes and sort of social or political ideas, but the execution of making you have to go through something and stick through it in order to get to the more interesting, fun gameplay later on. It's an interesting idea, and it's one that not many people could get away with because of these sort of, made by committee games. And nothing against that. These companies need to make money. And so they know if they have a game that comes out and it's not fun immediately, reviewers who don't play more than a few hours of a game before giving it a review are going to come back and say, no, this game is absolute garbage, especially if they get it early. And they're able to completely sway whether or not people are going to be buying that game. Luckily, Kojima was in such a place that he is a legend within the gaming community. People will buy a game for his name, and so he was able to do something that nobody else could really do: make a game that's not immediately fun. And doing so, he was able to bake in, even to that core gameplay, an idea. The idea that if you get through the boring, through the slog of being alone, which is really sort of the beginning of the game, you are alone. You don't have anything around you. There's no society, there's no people, there's just sort of holograms and people asking you to go to work again. That's sort of a really good allegory for life for a lot of people. The idea that you really have no one around you, no meaningful relationships, you just have work. And even the people around you are fake. They're holograms, right? The people online that you feel like you're in relationships with, who are YouTubers and influencers, and it's parasocial relationships where they don't actually know you. You feel like you know them. It's all fake. And so you're not making meaningful human relationships, and you feel alone, you feel segregated, you feel isolated, and it's only through a slog, a process of going outside, making your way across vast empty spaces and meeting new people, that you can finally begin to gain a benefit, fun, from this work that you did. And at that point, the game starts opening up. Now, I need to see more of the mid and late game from Death Stranding, but there's a bit of a double-edged sword there where I feel like eventually I may get the chance to play it, and I'd love to experience it in a way where I don't know what's going to happen. but I've seen a glimpse at the end game where you're actually able to do some things that seem a bit more fun. So, those are my thoughts on it. I know, it's a bit of a ramble, especially from somebody who hasn't played the game, but I've just been obsessively thinking about it as I watch streams of it, and I needed to get this sort of out there and see if you think the same thing. Am I thinking about it too much? Does that seem to make sense? Does it resonate with you as somebody who's played it or just also watched streams of it or anything else? Please do let me know. I'm very curious if this makes any sense at all, or if I should go back to thinking about things that are not weird video games that I don't get to actually play at the moment. Thanks.